Hey everybody, welcome to the Unspoken Truth podcast, where the mission is to hear the story, to have the margarita conversation instead of the Diet Coke one, and to share the amazingness and superpower of every woman that comes on the podcast. My name is Paige Brown, certified leadership and shadow work coach, nationally certified counselor with over 16 years of experience in shadow work and self-sabotage. And today, I am joined by Arlene Cruz, who is a business coach that focuses on marketing and sales, but she does things a little bit differently. So I want to start there. I want to start with how you do things a little differently, but also you can say hi too before I jump into the
everybody.
questions.
Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun, and I told you that that's what I signed up for is the fun.
Yeah.
Because anything other than that, it ain't happening.
No, we ain't about that life. Not at all.
Mm-mm.
So why do
Yeah,
you do things a little differently? Like, I'd be curious to know.
yeah. So what I know is that I say I'm a marketing and sales consultant only because that is what people are looking for usually.
Mm-hmm.
And I can help with that. But once we get into like the coaching space and mentoring space, I help the authentic person come through in her business. Like, I don't see that there's a separation of the person I'm working with and the business. Like, we roll with what feels good for the client and how they can show up more authentically. So I wouldn't say like I teach marketing, but the work that we do behind the scenes is definitely what will show in the marketing and then gain the sales.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, because that's like sort of kind of what I do, but I didn't start in the sales and marketing side. So like for me, it was like reversed. Like I always did like the emotional balance of the person. And then I realized that there was the correlation with the growth in the scale or like the scaling on that side. And I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Because I never saw
Yeah.
the person as anything. It wasn't like business and person. It was like you are the business. So if you don't know how to grow in that way, like if you're not growing personally, your business is not going to grow either.
Hmm.
Because you have to stretch, like it's like muscles, like you kind of have to stretch and grow, and you can only do that with practice and also going inside and working in that area. I think I knew that's what you did, but I was like, I wasn't sure because so background, Arlene and I met
See,
in a different container. In a different container, but we weren't like, we never talked in that container. It was always like more like learning about things. And then we would do like brief shares on our business, but not really like in depth work, And so it was just interesting because I was like, oh my gosh, we really do very much similar things, but just coming at
yeah,
it from different approaches, like
yeah,
different angles of it. So that's really, really cool. I
yeah. That's
enjoyed it.
in fact what you said, like when we were on one of our calls, and I think that we didn't talk much in there individually is because
No.
we were students, right?
Yeah.
And so when I said what I was doing, you're like, that's kind of like me, except for, and then you're like, you flipped it because it was the other way
Yeah.
around. So yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I know exactly. We're like mirrors, the opposites.
Yes.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
it's so important because, and this could be a really good topic too, because most of the women I've had on here are like health coaches in terms of like, inner body workings, nutrition, stuff like that. Just coincidentally so far, that's just who I've had.
Hmm.
Chinese medicine. I am trying to get a feng shui person. That'll be a lot of fun. But when you're talking about the internal growth and um, expansion, right? Like for me, when I coach somebody, when I'm working with a woman, because I mostly work with female entrepreneurs, um, it's really about the embodiment. And I actually, on a different podcast, which is coming out as we're filming this in like 2 weeks, because I briefly mentioned it before we signed on. I really highlighted the fact that like women in particular um, do not grow their businesses in traditional ways. Like it's just not the same as how men do it. And I say this is like, it's not a sexist thing. It's a it's just how we are created. Like we are
Hmm.
created to hold space. We are created to be emotional beings. We are created to be the support system. We're created to really feel into our bodies and do the emotional into the emotions, and not in the sense of like, it's not in the sense of us losing our stuff, right? It's not like we're being overly emotional and like crying all the time. It's not about that. It's more about the fact that we can feel into situations at a higher capacity than men can. And so when we come to make business decisions, at least this has been in my own observation from working with women and then myself, it's like when we can feel into the decisions and we can really take the time to understand ourselves, that's when we make the best decisions for our businesses. But it's when we go into the logic and the strategy and the rationale, like the SEO kind of side of things, that it's like all of a sudden we're trying to make it from the brain when our body's screaming like, I don't know if that's a good idea, and we're not listening to it. Like, have you seen that? Can you like give feedback on that, or if I'm like completely off the mark?
No, not for me. You're not completely off the mark, girl. Because in fact, a lot of the coaching that I do is definitely having the client unlearn all the social I don't know what it's called, but like basically all the consumption that they've consumed with the same type of business coach where F your feelings, you know? Like, I totally get that. I totally get the F your feelings and get the work done. But intuitively, like, your body knows this is the right path for me. And so when I've had a client, and one of my more recent clients, it was definitely what struck out to her was when she came to me for marketing and I explained to her and we started doing the work. She said, this is not what marketing and sales looks like. And I was like, you're right, it's not. Because prior to working with me, her other coaches were just like, this is how you do the work, get it done. And then for women, like you said, like who are, I feel like we're a lot of times chief of everything in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's what I say for myself. Like if we've got to have our family straight, our job, if you're working a job, and then you're in a high position, like you've
Mm-hmm.
got to be chief of staff there. And then when you come to your business, you're also that leader too. And so for us, we make sure that we include all of those parts of you to run your business so you're not like resentful of the business that you're attracting, or you're not resentful of the clients that keep coming in because they want to work with you. Because a lot of that stress that you're bringing in from other parts of your life definitely shows up. Whether you perform and pretend it's not showing up, your people could feel that, is like
Yeah.
how I think of it. And so that's the different way that I approach like marketing and sales, because if we get this straight and you show up confidently and you show up under no pressure to act or be like somebody else, then your true self is going to attract the people that definitely want to, they're happy to pay you for your service.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I've been instructing on as well. Is like, it's not like I never say I'm a marketer because I just never came from that world. But it's like for me, it's
Right.
like for me, I've done 10 years of owning my own business and scaling my own business, and I did it like the first, I want to say 5 6 years, I did it in a soul based led strategy, and I did it. I
Mhm.
made multi six figures doing that. Um, because I didn't have even the ambition to go to seven at that point, because I was still double dipping. I was still working a full time job. So I was still like,
Yeah.
whatever, like it's fine.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like, this is amazing to me right now, right? And then when I wanted to scale to seven, I was told that the only way to do that was to do it the other way, like the way that I'm not doing, that I wasn't doing, right? And so for 3 years in the middle there, I literally like almost became a non-recognizable version of myself, because I feel like I leaned way more into the masculine energy. It didn't feel good. I almost felt like this freaking sleazy salesman, because when I started my business, it was literally like I would just do random posts and people would just DM me and be like, hey, how do I work with you? That was amazing. Like, people like
Yeah.
kill for stuff like that. I mean, not literally, but like, I mean, it would be amazing to be able to do that and be like, not like, oh, I have to do marketing strategies, ads, like, what's my copy look like? What's the hook story offer that I need to make? And I was like, people get so in their heads on that stuff that they don't even sound like themselves. And then when you actually get to work with them, they're completely different human beings because they're
Right.
not being themselves. And I'm like, And there's so many people out there now even pitching like, oh, you have your alter ego on the stage versus that. I'm like, what? No, like, I don't even understand why you even have this. Like, this should not be you at all, because if you're having your alter ego on the stage, then the people that want to work with you are not going to align with you at all, which sucks, because that's what was
Yeah.
happening to me. That's like the 3 years that I had like the scaling thing. Yeah, it was working, but I felt like crap because I was attracting all the people that I didn't even want to work with. And I was like, this
Mhm.
stinks. Like, I don't want to be this, you know? And so I work with a mentor right now who, I love how she does this analogy. So I'm giving credit because like, I'm like, this is not mine. So, but it's like, basically like each human being, like as we want to say it, and she believes kind of what we do is like, and I think it does work for both genders. I just think it's more powerful in women with this emotional, like already this emotional pool that we already have, like just genetically. It's like biology. That we are all these Wi-Fi signals out in the universe, right? And so if we are not clear on who we are and we keep letting self-doubt get in the way, like all this baggage, right? That, you know, the spiral, the mental logical spiral that we all can kind of get sucked down the drain on, we're never going to align with the people that we're bringing in. We're going to get people that aren't ready to commit. Maybe they don't want to pay the money, all this other stuff. And then we have, and she's like, and then the second stage is like, you have the intermittent Wi-Fi signal, like, you know, the one that's on the roof that sometimes the shit gets stuck in. And you kind of like, it doesn't always work, but it sort of kind of does. Maybe like the rabbit ears on your TV when you had to adjust it. But
Yeah.
she's like, then you're gonna get people that some of them want to commit and work with you, but some of them are like, but then they kind of flip flop way too much. Like they have the money to work with you, but they're not ready to commit with you because you're not really sure with what you're doing. So they're not going to be all in with you. And then you have the people when you are like clear, when you are like, I don't know, like what's that new satellite one that's coming out with Elon? I don't know what it is, but it's like the most powerful satellite ever. You're gonna get the people. Starlink, that's what it is. Starlink. When you're like Starlink, you can actually get everybody that's aligned with you, but then also willing to pay you, and it becomes easy. And you don't actually have to sit there and strategize and stuff like that. And I actually had an argument with my husband about this because he is the strategy person. Like he is all strategy. He is like funnel, copy, hook, story, offer, like all the things. And it works for him because he actually is very much himself in that world because that's how his brain works. It works. And I watch a video of him, I'm like, yeah, that's you. Like that's totally you. Like there's no falsehood, no nothing. Like he is that way, like in person. I look at my videos, I'm like, who the hell is this person? Like when I'm talking, if I'm trying to do those things. And so I told him about the new offer that I was telling you about. And he's like, well, who's doing it? How do we strategize? Who's got the funnel? Who has all this stuff? Right? Like he's asking me all these questions. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like, I'm just going to bring him in. It's fine. Like, and he's like, well, how are you going to do that? I'm like, because my energy is going to be good and I'm going to just bring them in. And he was like, I don't really understand how this works. I'm like, you're not gonna.
No, they don't.
You're not gonna get it, but it is working, and that's the thing. Like I'm getting on calls with people, I'm attracting the right kind of person, like, and even if people are not really ready, like, because at the beginning of the offer, I was still in that weird, like, getting trees trapped in my Wi-Fi signal. It was good to practice, but because it was good to practice. And then the more I gained confidence, the more I'm like, oh, I'm seeing the people now pop up on my feed that I've never seen before. I have zero history with these freaking people. They probably have been watching me for a while and now they're
Mhm.
talking to me. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like a
Yes.
very different frequency, and it feels amazing that I have like 6 calls lined up for next week. You know what I mean? So it's that energy resonance is just really really cool. So I love it. I love that we actually do very similar things because it makes me happy on the inside.
I
So,
know it because I mean, I always, well, people will say like, no, I'm like all confused here, but not really because intuitively I know exactly the direction that I need to go. We need to
mhm,
go together. You need to go for your business. Like intuitively I know that. And again, the work is having them like peel off the layers of years after years of somebody telling them how it should be done in their business. Like they don't live your life. Like they don't, and if they don't like care about, I'm saying this in general because I don't really know, but what I've heard is like they don't really care about what's going on inside of you. They want you to do it this way because it worked for them. And
Yeah.
that's not in alignment. And you can so tell, like, even just, and I'm not calling anybody out, I'm calling people up, even just scrolling through your feed of people you see, that's not you. Like, I can tell, like, that's not who you are. Like, and then I have also gotten on calls where the patient, I'm an optometric technician currently as well, so I call my people patients sometimes. Um, the I've gotten on calls with people and they are not the same people that I thought I saw on the feed or the
Yeah.
energy on a website, or like, it's very misleading. And that's not the energy that we want to embody moving forward, because it just is easier. Like, it really is. Like, it's a really
Yeah.
easier step to take forward when you are who you are in all parts of your life.
Well, and I think too, it's so funny because I've had people meet me after seeing, like, I would say the janky videos that I did, so I'm gonna call them janky, because and they go, oh, you are exactly who you are on online, and I think it's because I never fully embodied that janky style. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I think that for me, it's like, yeah, I am that person because, but it was like me fighting the method, right? So it just didn't work. And so as that happens, it's like, it's never going to align with you, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that, like, for me, like in this new offer that I'm doing, it's so interesting to me because I've done this before. I've called people to me before, but I think it's way more obvious to me now because of the fact that I'm leveling up myself. So it's like, oh, like I see it. Like I see the difference
Mm,
between them. And for me, it's like when I work with somebody, yes, it's the stories that they've been told, like in a mastermind or marketing book or whatever, that
yeah.
only this thing can work. Because I'm like, really, like, you guys really think that only that thing can work? Because I know about 50 people right now telling me that their way is the only way to scale on Instagram. 50 different people are the same. And I'm like, and the reason why I say this, and I went on a tangent the other episode, but that's fine. um but I went on a tangent because the thing is that when you have like, there's no more original thought. There just isn't. And what you're doing is you're taking the same strategies and repackaging them in a really pretty ribbon and selling it again. And then they're repackaging that and then putting AI after it, and then they're selling that again. And so there is no original strategy. The only original strategy that is left is to go into you. Period. And I said this on my podcast, was I said my framework that I teach has nothing to do with me. I said that's why I don't have a cookie cutter system, because it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you and how what you're bringing to the table when we have the conversation within that framework. Because to me, it's like you got to break them of the story. You have to break them of these lies that you keep telling yourself, because the bottom line is strategy is not the only way to scale. Selling tiny offers is not the only way to scale. Selling high ticket
Right.
offers is not the only way to scale. It's like you have to break the pattern and then get them to go inside of them to figure out what actually do they want to do. Because you don't also have to be this, what is it, Insta influencer in order to
Right.
sell something. And I think that that's what it is. And when you see somebody like spiraling like that, it's because, like, literally you're trying 50 million offers or 50 million products, because I've done this, so I understand. um when all you like, and I laugh because I'm not calling anybody out. Like, I'd say, like, Arlene, I love that. I was like, I'm calling people up here. I'm laughing because if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, she's calling me out, no, I'm not. Like,
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm laughing because I've done this. So that's what I'm saying. And it's so simple that it doesn't seem that this is the answer, right? It doesn't,
Mm.
like, it's like, oh, this is stupidly simple. But I also feel like, and you probably agree with me like that on this, is that you cannot do this work by yourself, because, and that's why you and I have businesses, because you have to have somebody who's going to see your label when you're in your own bottle. Like, that's why I always have a coach or somebody I'm working with, because they're going to call me out when I start doing the same crap again. It's the
Right.
same stuff because
Right.
you have to catch yourself. You're human. You're gonna keep spiraling back into it. Um, but yeah, you're I love the way you tie that into like what is your like what did you where did you start? That's where because like you're not like what is it? I know you worked in an optometrist's office, so, but like how did you start doing all of this stuff? Because it just seems, and I know you're intuitive, and I know like
Yes.
I have that same gift, and we've talked briefly about that as well. But it's like where did you like start all of this background for yourself?
Yeah. So, we're gonna go way back.
Way back. I like going way back.
Yeah, way back. So, now I'm gonna just give my parents credit for this, and the credit that I'm gonna give them is that they did not have high expectations of me, which means all they wanted from us was a high school diploma and do whatever you needed to do. And the reason I feel like that's such a gift is because I never had to prove that what I was doing was going to make them happy. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever area I ended up in, that is it. Like we gave them the diploma. And so I say that to say I never thought that working in a I was going to be an optometric technician. That was not a dream. I always knew though that I was very interested in business. Like I was interested in the operations, the administrations part of business, and this is through high school. Um, and so I was in business classes in high school. I became a future, what is it called? Future Business Leader of America member. Like I was really proud of my business mind. And then my mom, because they had not been to college, mom or dad had never been to college. When I said, Mom, I would like to go to college, and when you fill out the financial aid form, because obviously they didn't go to college, so they didn't have money for me to go to college. And so you fill out the financial aid form, and the only line that she paid attention to was she would be financially responsible for any debt incurred up until my age 25. And at that time I was 18. So that's a lot of years to be responsible for somebody's debt.
Yeah.
And so basically she said no. She's like, "Well, what do you want to go to college for?" And I said, "I don't know, business." And that wasn't a good enough answer for her. And so she said she wasn't going to do it because in her mind, it was doctor, lawyer, all those things that, have big names, but business just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't enough for her because they had been working 9 to 5s all of their lives. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to go to college. So I had never lost the drive to become a business owner. Um, and I was really good at talking to people. Like, just, I can adapt very well in situations where there were social. Although I'm always like saying like I'm an introvert because truly I feel like I am. But then, so fast forward to like I had my first child at 23 and then a second child at 24, and now I'm with my partner and there's only one income coming in for the four of us.
Mm.
And so in 2004, we opened up a home-based sign business,
That's cool.
and I liked getting the job. Like my husband
Yeah.
would do the tactical work and and getting the signs together, but I like going out talking to people and all of that kind of stuff. And so since then I've been in the business. And then fast forward some more. Now I have 3 kids and already established as an optometric technician. Um, and then when I turned 40 or 42, I was like, I'm going back to college and I'm going to get me a business degree. And the reason I did that was because I knew at some point I was going to want to transition out of being an employee to actually running some type of business other than the sign business that wasn't my dream. Um, and so I did that. I got the degree in business and I really, really focused on like online marketing or marketing
Mm-hmm.
and sales. And I got like all the certificates under human resources, customer service, all of that. Um, and so that's what built something in me that I wasn't able to get at a 17 when I was 17. And then I think like no, I worked in retail for a long time. I would never ever identify myself as a salesperson. However, I have made lots of money for different people. Um, and so I just feel like marketing was my word or my work. And then 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I joined. It was called Accountability Formation, and it
Mm-hmm.
was me and the founder and a couple of other administrators. It was basically a group where you would encourage other business owners, and I don't know, it was amazing. But so in there is when I was like showcasing more of my marketing skills, because prior to that I was just an optometric technician. And so in that space I was able and allowed myself to like speak more about marketing and
Mm-hmm.
teaching people how to market.
That's awesome. Like that is a whole like there's no bell curve there. It's just like up. I
Yeah.
was trying to be like, is it? No, there is no bell curve.
With
That's like a
no.
fuel. No, that was just straight up. I mean, and I've heard that a lot from, um, friends of mine who I don't know what your nationality is, so I'm not assuming, but
Pacific Islander.
okay, Pacific Island. So like I have friends here. We have a very large Filipino culture here. And so I've heard the same stories, right? Like doctor, lawyer, like
Yeah.
those are the big names. And so I have one who, like, I mean, she rebelled because she really wanted to be an artist and she was really good at it. Like, I mean, hugely good at it. And now she is, and she's in California, which is great. And she's doing amazing things. But gosh, like I mean, she didn't talk to her family for like a long time because they just didn't want anything to do with it.
Mhm.
So not only to overcome that, because I think all of us have personal struggles with our family members for one reason or another about like what we're doing. Like when I quit my 9 to 5, my dad was like, "What are you doing?" Like seriously, because I worked in like the school system, which was really reliable and reasonable, and should have like. I mean, it had good benefits and stuff. I mean, the pay sucked. I'm just gonna be honest. The pay sucked.
Yeah.
And I was undervalued, and I was working like probably 45 hours a week, and I was making I was contracted for like $52,000 a year, but I was probably taking home in pocket like 38 when all this was said and done. You know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not worth it for me because you couldn't qualify for overtime or anything like that. So the reason why I'm saying this is because if anybody's listening and you're kind of like, I kind of want to start my own business, there's so many ways to do it where you can sort of feel safe with it, but at the same time, not like you can explore it, tip your toe into it without actually like doing it full time right off the bat. Like, cause I didn't. Arlene's still double dipping, like, which is awesome. I don't even know how you do that sometimes. She does the most amazing posts, like in the middle of the night, there, where she's like, I'm having cake while she's working. And I'm just like, I love her so much because I'm like, I want cake, and I would never post about it. Like, it's just amazing. But I think part of it, right? But it's really about like just being you and going into it in your system and what you love to do. And that's the thing that's like that. I love that you loved business so much. It was so funny because I stayed away from every business class in college because I was like, I don't want that at all. Like I was like, no. Like economics, like I was like so repulsed. And then when I actually started to, I think for me it was like I had to be in it to understand it, right? So like when I was in it and I was doing my own thing, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now, So I started actually learning about it, and that part really excited me because it was just like, okay, I'm gonna take this in and then I'm gonna use it how I want to use it. And it wasn't until I found like I kept getting, I don't want to say brainwashed, but it felt like that in a lot of ways of like, oh, I have to do it this way or I have to do it that way. And that's when I
Mm.
lost a lot of the fire. And it's just like, so, well, if you're listening to this and you're not a business owner, again, and you want to, obviously it's doable because, a lot of people are doing it. But I think if you're listening to this and you are a business owner and you're stuck, which happens because we all get stuck, I think, at some point. And to me, when you get stuck, it's like you're ready for the expansion and you're just not sure what to do with that. And I think that that's when we start to look at the logic way too much. Like we're starting to go like, well, I need to scale and I need to hire a new copywriter. I need to hire a new marketer. I need to hire a new ad specialist. I need to hire somebody to be in my DMs. I need to hire an appointment setter. I need to hire all of these things about hiring, and you're hemorrhaging money when in reality, like, because at that point you kind of are. Because like if you're not growing and you're hiring all these people, is that you actually have to go inside of yourself and be like, what do you actually really want? Because if your business right now is not what you want it to be, then scaling is pointless, really. Because it's like, if it's not really what you want it to be, it's pointless. But at the same time, if it's not what you want it to be, what do you want it to look like? Because if you have no vision of what that actually looks like, it doesn't have to, and I want to say this, you do not have to burn it down to change it. You just have to know which direction you're now choosing to go in. And I love when you said I forget exactly how you said it. But you're like, your intuitiveness always sort of knows the direction that they need to go in, right? Like you're like, that's what and I totally agree with you. And for me, again, I have my intuition as well, but for me, it's like, I see all the puzzle pieces that they're like word vomiting at you. And I'm like, and these pieces go in this order. And that's how it works. And they think they're not making sense. And I'm like, you make perfect sense to me. But I'm like, but you have to believe this first. Like you're saying it, but you're not actually taking it in and believing it, because I think that you think it's not possible, that's where it is. And so it's about making the impossible to them seem and feel possible, and understanding like you are fully capable of going to this level. You are fully capable of going from, I don't know, like a 5-figure to a 6-figure business. You are fully capable of going from a 6 to a 7-figure business. It is, and I think, and especially with women, we tend to slight ourselves in that area. And it's like, this is not just the man's world anymore. Like, we got this too. Like, let's just be real. We're just going to get there a little differently, because that's how we're wired, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you talk about vision, it's very funny to me, and it's not coincidental. Like the vision, I have been in the vision world literally for about 23 years. So I work with how to help people see better, glasses, contacts, whatever. And then as a business owner, I am always talking about the vision. And it's not just the vision that they have, it's the vision that they don't have. So again, I'm helping the business owners see things that they have not even thought about, you know, and part of the reason is they're adapting somebody else's vision of how their business is supposed to look. And when you start doing that, and that's the only evidence of like what your business could look like, you're actually building their business and you're not building your own. And so it's disheartening for me to see my close friends and you know, women business owners very frustrated, very tired, very overwhelmed because so-and-so said I had to do it this way. And I'm like, how's that working for you? Because it's not. And so I feel like vision, my best friend and I laugh about this because I'm like, I have got to implement vision in like either the name of a business or like my framework or something like that, because I have worked with many women who, including and I'll say myself too, like I couldn't see what I couldn't see, and it would take somebody to like help me clear up the smoke and be like, no, this is actually what you're wanting. Like the question you said, what do you really want? Because people sometimes want what other people told them they should want.
Well, and that's the thing when I asked that. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But I would tell you.
Brings me back to the gift that my mom and dad didn't tell me what I had to want.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
That was a gift, and I think that I mean, I think it probably as a child, it was like, what the hell, mom and dad, like what is going on?
Help
but
me.
but I think too, like my parents, you know, they told me that I was going to college, like that was like a non-negotiable for them. I think too, it's funny because when I look back on it, I had such a very weird vision of things, of like what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. And it did not necessarily require college back then. but that was like going to be the path that I had to take, right? And it's so funny because I went into college thinking I was going to be something completely different than I am now. And I will say I felt like I feel like I do draw on the things that I learned in college a lot, because I was a sociology major. I did a minor in philosophy. I have a, master's degree in counseling. So all of that has served me in like seeing women a lot differently than I probably would have. But I think a lot of it was intuition that I already had. Like a lot of it is just there. I think it's enhanced that for sure. But it's so funny because I literally went to school to be a criminologist because I really wanted to help people. And then I was like, this is depressing. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I went to do counseling because I still wanted to help people, but I didn't want to be in like death, and in very morbid stuff, so I wanted to be more in that counseling area and help kids. And I started off as like a like foster care kind of, working with kids, and I loved the kids, but I hated the adults. Like they were annoying. And so I switched to schools, and it was because the community and school track that I was in were basically the same requirements. I just knew I didn't want to do mental health because I didn't want to have to diagnose anybody. And so I switched to school because I wanted to work with the kids, and I loved the kids because I could see them, and I could see a lot in me in them. And that's why I really wanted to work with the kids. But when I started, I was only like 25, 26, something like that. So I was in the high school. So some of these kids were only like 5 years younger than me. I was like, or 7 years younger than me or something. And I was like, this is not that big of a gap. Like, so I felt like I could still see myself there. But then I started working for GED adults. And a lot of the GED adults were entrepreneurs because they were doing like family run businesses and things like that. And I was like, okay, there's something here, right? And so it's just so funny to me that I kept leaving things that are still essentially the same thing that I'm doing now. But in I feel like I had to just kind of, again, put the pieces together to get to where I wanted to go. But for me, what renewed my passion with doing this space in general was that when I finally said, I just want to work with women, and I still have a few male clients that I love to work with one-to-one, but like the women I wanted to do in a group because I saw the magic of working in a group of women. And it's because you get the pat on the back that you need. It's not about validation. It's about the fact that you can all sit there and go like, we're all in the same space, and maybe like somebody's going to have a good day, somebody's not going to have a good day, but that's okay. And then the person having the good day maybe can spin around and help the person not having such a good day, which I think is a beautiful thing. And it always happens. It happens organically, seeing that. And what I feel like I had to do, because if anybody's listening to this and they've joined the masterminds or the programs and they're like, I'm pissed off. Like, I feel like I paid a lot of money and I didn't get what I wanted, because maybe you 100% relate to what we're talking about with like the marketing and all this other stuff, is that the reason why I just started diving into this past year was I was in some of the top masterminds in the country. We're talking 50K a year masterminds, 25K to 50K a year masterminds for various people, right? And it was because I kept searching for this answer, right? And my now mentor told me, she's like, you kept joining all these things because you were looking for somebody else to tell you the answer that you already have. And I was like, shit.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong. Because here's the thing. Again, why do I have a mentor? Because she sees stuff that I don't see. And I was sitting here coaching women to get to 3x their revenue, 10x their revenue, scale their businesses, do all the things. And I was helping them do it. All the while, I wasn't seeing that I was literally putting my own foot in my mouth because I was not doing what I've been telling them to do. And I was like, well, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this? And I didn't put myself down. I was just more like, okay, well, we're going to shift this up because I don't want to do this anymore. And so that's when I realized that I had this aha moment, like it was like a year and a half ago. I was like, that I see, and I've been in a lot of spaces, no clear business coaching in a mastermind group format for women only, talking about this on a bigger scale. Like there's like, you know, like in the big people, right? Because they're all men. Like if you look at the big business owners, right? Like Dean Graziosi and, you know, Russell Brunson and all these, they're all dudes. And so I'm like, no wonder we all think that we're supposed to be doing this because they're all dudes. And so I literally was like, I want to create not a mastermind necessarily on that scale because that's a lot, but I want to do one. I want to do one for women and show them like what's missing is them. Right. And giving them that space to grow, because like, even though we go like, and I say this all the time, we're not done healing, y'all. Like if you've been doing the healing, you're not done. Like it's, you're not done till you meet the maker. Okay. Like you're not done. And it's always evolving and growing. Same thing with your business. You're always evolving and growing your business because every level up you make is going to shed some light on something that you either need to work through or you need to expand through. One of the two. Like it's got to, and well, usually the work through ends up expanding, but like that's what you have to do. And so I was like, I want to create this safe space because there is no mastermind on a high level for women to go, I don't need to do this. Like, this is not the rule. I'm not making rules. I'm just going to be like, what do you want to do? And that's a really hard question. And I will say that I was going to say this when you said that too. Like when you said, oh, like, what do you want? Like that question to answer. And you said, oh, people have been telling them. When I ask that question, I don't want to hear about money and I don't want to hear about expansion. I don't want to hear about scaling. I want to know what they want in terms of like everyday life. How many appointments do you want on the calendar? How much free time do you want? How much time do you want to spend with your kids? How much time do you want to spend with your spouse? Do you want to travel? Like all of that stuff. Because if you put a number, the number means nothing. The number means nothing. Like I could say, I want $7 million. Why do I want $7 million? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
because someone else said I should want that.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And it's like the coach that I have now and my mentor is honestly probably one of the most revolutionary coaches that I could meet at the time that I was in the space. And she told me, she's like, because your body already knows. Like, this is the stuff that I know. Again, I hired somebody that coaches like me finally. I was like, yes, somebody that sees the way that I do. It was great. And she's like, your body knows. And so I literally came to her saying, oh, I wanted like a 700K program. That's what I said verbally. And she's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? So she asked me those questions, exactly like how I do it. She didn't know that's how I coach. And I told her all the things. She's like, okay, and 700K does that? And I was like, I don't know. It's just a number I threw out. Like, I don't know. And so she goes, okay, well, how about this? Like, let's just go into your body for a second. And so we started asking these questions. And come to find out, I don't want a 700K program. I want a $3.5 million program. And now I have reasons. So,
yes.
And that's what it was. And I told her that. I said, you know, somewhere between, once I actually figured out, I said somewhere between 500 and 700K took care of my family. Let's just be real. Like, because in the way that the economy is today, is I wanted to be able to save money so my kid would not have to have debt. I wanted to be able to take care of my dad, who's still around, and my in-laws. I wanted to not have to have them worry about medical bills, right? I wanted to be able to travel with my family and give my kid the experience that I didn't have when I was younger, to travel the world. And I wanted to be able to go around and travel when I wanted to see my friends across the world, but also to do speaking gigs and things like that. And for me, I do want to get paid to speak, because I am starting to get paid for speaking, which is awesome. But I also want to be able to be in the position of, I don't have to get paid to speak if it's something that I feel like is rewarding enough. Right. So like, that was sort of the other thing. So then I told her, I said, it takes care of my family. But then I was like, I literally looked at her and I was like, but I don't want to take care of just my family. Like I told her, I was like, I want to hire people. I want to be responsible for people's paychecks, which is not an easy thing to do. I want to take care of other coaches who don't necessarily have the means or the desire to get their own clients, and they're amazing coaches, but they just don't want to hire. They don't want to do that work. You know, I want to take care of, like I want to write a check of $100,000 to OUR. Which is Operation Underground Railroad. I want to build homes in Mexico. Like, I want to do, like, I used to do Habitat for Humanity in college, and I want to, like, do something like that. Like, nice. I can't freaking do that if I'm only making $700,000. And that's what I literally was like, oh, I gotta make 3.5. And then I was like, oh, it's far. She's like, it's not that far. I was like, okay.
Right,
So,
right. I just did an exercise today too that was stretching in the dollar amount.
yeah.
Or because I think it was I think it was 1.2 million a year or something like that, right? And I was asked, okay, so what comes up when you see that number? Because my thing is if I write it down, it becomes real, and so I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, that's real. And she's like, what comes up when you see that number? I was like, that's a long ways to go. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to come through for that. And so that was pretty stretching, and it definitely speaks to what you're saying. Like, in the beginning, when I was asked of a money goal, I would only think about what was going to feed my family in my house. I never thought about extended family like my parents or in-laws, and I never thought about communities that I wanted to build and I wanted to help. I never thought about that because that small money goal that I said, oh, this is going to help me just quit my job.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to help me do everything that I wanted to do. And so the what do you want thing, I know even for me was so, I restricted my wants, and it was mostly to please other people's wants of me. Because, oh my God, you want that? Well, yeah, I do. Like, what do you got to say about that, right? And so I see that in others as well. And again, sadly, Paige, you're right. It's mostly women.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think guys have that. Like,
No.
the guys, they don't have that threshold. Like, they're shooting for the moon.
Well, and that's the thing. I mentioned this. I don't remember which podcast I was on, but I was talking about this the other day, and it was about the fact that men don't have the limitations. And I said it's not about being sexist, and it's not about putting them down, and it's not about anything. And I said, and I know that they've had like, I don't know, like I want to say they have had a lot of, what's the word I want to use? Forward experience, right? Because they've been doing work since the caveman days. Like, that's just how that they've been, right? Biologically speaking, they're like the providers. That's just a given. So we've only really been in the workforce consistently, I want to say, for the last like 45, 50 years, really. Because even in the 70s, it wasn't very common, it was very like sporadic that women were actually entering the workforce. And even then it was like
home.
And even then it was like secretarial positions. It wasn't necessarily like higher up opportunities. And then we hit the 80s, and then there's like Working Girl came out, that movie. I love that movie. And it's like all of a sudden like Melanie Griffith is like showing what's possible in the women's world, because then all of a sudden she's like the CEO, right? Like, or she wasn't the CEO, but she was like, oh no, she became like a senior manager or something like that in the movie. And I was like, okay, cool, right? So you start to see the opportunity. So we're playing catch up in a lot of ways. That's first. But second of all, again, I think it comes down to biology. Women are more emotional beings. And what happens is we start to copy what we've been told is the appropriate behavior or things to do to be successful. And it's, you can't be emotional. You can't lean into your emotions. You can't lean into the woo, or you can't like go into your body. You can't like depend on yoga or meditation or all this other stuff. You have to be logical and strategic, which is what men do. It works for them. It does not work for us. I would say most women I think there are some women that do thrive on that, but I think it's because they do have a slightly more masculine energy about them. That's not to say that that's bad. That's just to say that some women do have a balance where there's slightly heavier in the masculine energy. And that's not about gender or, I would say, I'm going to caveat this in saying it's not about like, life choices at that point. It's not about like who you love or anything like that. It's just that some women have a slightly more masculine feel to them than others. And there's also some women that have a way more feminine energy than other women. Like, I do not have as strong a feminine energy as some of my friends do. That's fine. But what I'm saying is the root of us is emotional, really leaning into intuition. I think women have a lot more intuition than men. We have more empathy than men. We have more feeling, like just in the general area. And so what ends up happening is we're told not to do that. And so then everything that makes us secure, which is the stuff that we know, which is like the emotions or the intuition or whatever, we have to stuff down like a freaking cork, and we're not allowed to express that. So then we have to go into the logic or the masculine side of our energy, and it doesn't feel good. And so it makes us insecure, and it makes us less confident in those decisions. And so then what ends up happening is we walk into the meetings or the presentations, and we tend to yield then to the guy who has experience, who has gotten who's done the steps, who's done the reps, who's done all this other stuff. And it's because they just click with it faster than we do, because that's not how we learn. And it's not their fault. It's just that's how they are born, And so what ends up happening too is, I feel like men, they will apply for jobs that they're not even qualified for at all. Like,
yes.
None. They don't check any box. And none. No. And they just still apply for it.
Know they could do it.
They just know that they could do it. And that's the difference. It's like, why can't we just inherently and confidently walk in there? And I think the thing is, too, is like when women have confidence, and I don't feel like everybody believes this, but I feel like sometimes this is how it's portrayed. Women have confidence, or they walk into the room like they own it. We're seen as, oh, she's a bitch. Or she's opinionated, or she thinks her shit don't stink. Whatever that is. Men walk into rooms and it's like, oh, he's confident, or he knows he owns the room.
They get congratulated for that. Yeah,
exactly. And I was told this year, this is funny story, but I was told for the first time this year that I'm direct. I've never told that in my life. First of all, I've been told other things that are synonyms. Meaning they were like the negative. I don't see direct as bad. Like, I see direct as like, okay, I'm just direct. I've also been told I'm truthful, which I'm like, I totally take that as a compliment. But I was also told that I was blunt, which I do take that as negative. I've told I was loud or boisterous, which I do take as a negative. And I was told that I was just over opinionated. So again, I went from during that 3-year period where I was trying to figure all this stuff out, that's when those words were used. And I shifted the last year and a half back to what I know. And now all of a sudden I'm direct and truthful, which is a wholly different experience. And I think that it's about what I'm also bringing in. If you're walking into that room and you're confident, and I'm using quotes for people that don't have the video, and you're confident, but you're not actually confident, you're going to be seen as a bitch, because it's coming off as an insecure confidence versus just straight up confidence.
Embodied. Yep.
Yes. In that embodiment, in that self-mastery sense. And when you are like confident and you freaking know it, there's no bitch about you. Now you might get jealous, like evoke some jealousy from some people that don't necessarily get that, but you're going to get that anywhere. And I think that that's the other step. The last step is that you have to understand, like, you have to not care what anybody else is going to say about you. If you are so sure of who you are, you can't care, because that's a reflection of them. And that's like that big, like, I feel like that's like sometimes the last thing that I get women to let go of is like that. You have to release that, because it's basically an illusion of control. You're trying to control how other people view you, and you cannot do that, because this was again told by me by somebody else, not me. I could have sounded really smart in just 2 seconds, but I'm not going to give it credit. But what they think of you is none of your business. So in all essence, you'll never know how they think of you unless they say it. And if they say it, then you know that's their insecurity.
Right.
It's not your confidence coming through. But yeah, you're right. Men don't have that problem. And again, I think it's just biology. And we have to get, and this is my personal mission as well, as giving women this space, but also to say, I want to bring up a level of women that are not seeing men as the problem. Mm-hmm. They're seeing themselves as the solution. Because the problem is that when we start pointing fingers at all the men, all we incur is man hate. And it's not their fault that they're successful, and it's not their fault that they've had hundreds of years more experience than we have. That was just
Right.
biology. And it was just the way that things happened. And I mean, if you look in caveman days, the cave women were taking care of the cave babies. The cavemen were going out and
Yeah.
killing stuff. That's just how it worked. It's how it worked. You know, the only
Right.
time, the only example that that's backwards in is when in lionhood, like the lions, the women lions go out and kill
Yeah.
all the meat, and the men stay back. But in reality, though, the men are staying back with the babies because they're stronger, and so they're trying to protect that, and so it is that way, right? But the thing is that women are no less weak and women are no less capable. It's just that we do not have the experience or the biology to do it, and you have to do it in your way. If you're doing it in your way, you can pass any man. There's no glass ceiling unless you put it there.
Right.
That's how I
Right.
see it.
Mhm. It's so
We
true.
are awesome. We awesome, Arlene.
We kind of are.
We are beautifully amazing and awesome.
Mhm.
Um, but I really enjoyed you coming on the podcast today. I know we talked about really random stuff, but I was like, I really wanted to talk about this stuff with you because you're seeing the same trends I am. And it's like, I want to show women that it's like, it's not a problem unless you make it a problem. And when you make it a
Right.
problem, then you're pointing fingers in the wrong direction when really you need to look inside, and that's how you grow. That's it. And most men, like men do not, this is the thing I was going to end on because I said this. I was like, it came into my brain. Men don't go to like bars and bitch about problems and then do nothing about it. like, like
Yeah.
they go to bars to watch sports and say literally nothing to each other and then leave and they feel like they bonded. Women,
Yeah.
we spend so much time complaining about the problem and we won't, and when even when people give us the solution, we still refuse to see it because there's a part of us, and I will say this lovingly because I was part of this. There's a part of us
Mhm.
that likes that. We
Mhm.
like the complaining and we like the camaraderie that comes with it. And it shouldn't be that way. We should like the successes that we can celebrate with each other. It's almost like we kind of as a unit don't lift everybody up that's winning. We tend to lift the person up that's not. And it's like because it sort of makes us feel better. And that's not
Yeah.
that's it's backwards. And that's what we need to
Very
stop doing
backwards.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely hit a good point when you talked about the woman in that situation and liking the camaraderie. Like it's the whole like when you find someone who's bitching and complaining about one thing and they're doing the same thing that you are, then you feel normal. Like, oh, like I'm not the only one doing this. And so like, okay, so now you have your tribe of people who want to do that. But then again, what happens to the woman who is like, yes, this is going on. And I'm always like, okay, so what now? So Arlene, you got this thing going on and it's hitting all points in your body, and what are you gonna do now? Like we're not just gonna sit here, and if you are, then that's on you. But like I always love the building from the inside out, because like what you said, when your confidence is coming from in here,
Mhm.
you're not gonna be viewed as that bee walking through and if you are, then that's again on them. But like it's it's so like I see lots of evidence of that, and it's we want to change that in women and like not be the jealous, like be the encourager and just celebrate people, like just celebrate
I know
people.
it's like celebrate people winning because when we celebrate people winning, we win too. Like it's if we
Mhm.
stay in that negative energy, this is my woo. But if we stay in that negative energy, that's all we're going to attract. So it's might as well
Mhm.
stay in the positive energy and attract the positive winning for each other. Because the thing
Yep.
is like, I want to be on the front lines of people winning. Um and I want to see their successes and I want to see their
Mhm.
victories.
Mhm.
To so much so that in the past I've definitely given away way too much stuff for free. But but and also like I feel like sometimes I do because I know the value of of that versus like there, I wouldn't do it for everybody obviously, but like I
Right.
just, I see somebody and I'm like, I want to help you because I see it
Hmm.
versus, but that's why we confidently go into ourselves and charge what we should be charging for people so that we can go back and go, I want to help this person because that's okay.
Right.
So
That
that's
whole
the thing.
bigger picture of the money. Like, is that 700K going to do that? No.
Mm-mm.
Like, you got to be making more than that to be able to pull back
Well, and that was the thing.
from the
Like
people.
my mentor is not charging me her full rate for that reason, and
Mhm.
so I think that
I
that's
love
what I
that,
would love
Paige.
to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
So
love about owning a business is because, when you can, you will. Like, you'll be able to be like, I got you on this one. And
I
that
know.
means you don't owe me anything. We're just going to grow together. It's so good. It's so good.
I know. And it's like it feels good to me because I'm like I want to see other people's successes and wins and stuff like that. So it's awesome. But anyway, but
Yeah.
I loved this conversation. It went like full circle and it was like so good and so juicy and I loved it. But
I had fun. So thank you.
it was a lot of fun, and we will put Arlene's social contacts and stuff like that at the bottom, like we normally do. And so, if anybody wants to follow her or give her a shout out, or if maybe you're like, I don't know how to do my marketing, and I'm feeling like I'm stuck, um, Arlene is somebody you can hook up with, and we'll put that in the links for YouTube as well as Spotify. So depending on which way you're seeing this, and we just want everybody to have an amazing, amazing day. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.